The stagecoach rolled into Hillsboro, New Mexico on a blistering August afternoon in 1878, and Amanda Oliver's last $5 sat heavy in her pocket as she watched three small girls chase each other around the dusty Main Street while their father tried unsuccessfully to corral them back toward the general store. She had come west with nothing but desperation, and a references letter from a Philadelphia household that had let her go when the family moved to Boston. And now she stood on the wooden sidewalk with her carpetbag at her feet, scanning the notice board outside the telegraph office for any kind of work that might keep her fed and sheltered. The heat pressed down like a physical weight, and sweat traced lines down her back beneath her travel-worn gray dress. She was 24 years old, alone in a mining town 2,000 miles from everything she had ever known, and if she did not find employment within the week, she would have to choose between eating and keeping the room she had rented at the boarding house. The smallest of the three girls, perhaps 5 years old, stumbled and fell hard on her knees in the street. Amanda moved without thinking, crossing the distance and kneeling beside the child as tears began streaming down the dusty little face. The girl's cotton dress was faded and patched in several places, and her blonde hair hung in tangles that spoke of many days without proper brushing. "There now, let me see," Amanda said gently, producing a handkerchief from her sleeve. She dabbed at the scraped knees with careful touches. "You are very brave. These are warrior wounds." The little girl hiccuped and stared at her with wide blue eyes. "What is a warrior?" "Someone strong and courageous," Amanda replied, aware that the other two girls had stopped running and were now watching her with identical expressions of cautious curiosity. They looked to be perhaps 7 and 9, all three clearly sisters with their matching blonde hair and sun-browned skin. "Someone who gets up even when they fall down. Papa says Mama was a warrior," the middle girl offered, moving closer. "She died when Lily was born." Amanda felt her heart twist. She looked up and saw the man approaching and for the first time got a clear view of him. He was tall and lean, probably in his late 20s, with dark hair that fell past his collar and eyes the color of creek water. His face was weathered from years in the sun, with lines around his eyes and mouth that spoke of both laughter and sorrow. He wore dusty work clothes and boots that had seen better days, and his hat hung down his back on a cord. "Girls, I told you to stay close," he said, and his voice carried bone-deep exhaustion. Then his gaze fell on Amanda, still kneeling with his youngest daughter, and something shifted in his expression. "I apologize, miss. They got away from me. It happens more often than I care to admit." Amanda rose, keeping one hand on Lily's shoulder. "She took a fall, but I think she will survive. Nothing that a good washing and perhaps a cookie would not fix." The man's mouth quirked in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "We are fresh out of cookies. Been fresh out for about 6 months now." He scooped Lily up into his arms with practiced ease. "I am Nathan Jameson. These are my daughters, Lily, Grace, and Emma." He indicated each girl in turn. "We have a ranch about 3 miles east of town." "Amanda Oliver," she replied, offering her hand in what she knew was a forward gesture, but Western manners seemed different from Eastern ones. His palm was calloused and warm when it engulfed hers. "I arrived today from Philadelphia." "Long way to travel," Nathan said, and she heard the question in his tone. "I needed a fresh start," Amanda said simply, which was both true and wholly inadequate to explain the last 2 years of her life. Her father's death, the debt collectors, the humiliation of having to take a position as a housemaid when they had once been comfortable. The way her fiancé had dissolved their engagement when her circumstances changed. "I am looking for work. I was a lady's maid and governess in Philadelphia." Nathan's eyes sharpened with something that looked almost like hope, but it faded quickly. Not much call for that kind of work out here. Most families do their own raising and teaching. Emma, the oldest girl, tugged on her father's sleeve. Papa, my dress ripped again. And Grace's too. And nobody braided our hair right for 3 days. I know, sweetheart, Nathan said quietly, and Amanda heard the defeat in his voice. I am doing my best. Amanda made a decision that was either brilliantly practical or utterly foolish. Mr. Jameson, forgive my boldness, but it seems to me that you might benefit from some help with your daughters. And I need a position. Perhaps we could come to an arrangement. Nathan stared at her for a long moment, and she watched a dozen emotions flicker across his face. Suspicion, hope, uncertainty, and something that looked like desperate relief. Miss Oliver, I am a rancher barely scraping by. I cannot afford fancy governess wages. I do not require fancy wages, Amanda said firmly. Room, board, and modest pay. In exchange, I would care for your daughters, manage your household, teach them reading and arithmetic, and ensure they have proper clothes and hair and the things a father cannot easily provide. Why would you want to bury yourself on a struggling ranch? Nathan asked bluntly. A woman with your education and manners, you could find a husband easily enough. Amanda lifted her chin. I am not looking for a husband, Mr. Jameson. I am looking for honest work and a place where I can be useful. I have discovered that I am good with children, and I enjoy teaching them. Your daughters clearly need someone. I need employment. It seems a practical solution. Grace reached out and touched Amanda's skirt with tentative fingers. Would you really stay with us and fix our dresses and make our hair pretty? I would, Amanda promised, looking down at the little girl. I would teach you many things. How to read and write properly, how to sew, how to cook. All the things your mama would have taught you if she were here. She saw Nathan flinch at that, but when she met his eyes again, she saw that the hope had returned stronger this time. I cannot promise it will be easy, he said slowly. The ranch is isolated, the work is hard. The house needs repairs I have not had time to make, and the girls, they have been without a mother's touch for 3 years now. They are half wild. I am not afraid of hard work, Amanda said. And I think your daughters are not wild, they are simply lost. Children need guidance and love and consistency. I can provide those things. Nathan shifted Lily on his hip and looked at his daughters, then back at Amanda. She saw him wrestling with the decision, weighing need against propriety, desperation against caution. Finally, he nodded slowly. All right, Miss Oliver, we will try it for a month. If it does not suit either of us by then, I will pay your passage to wherever you want to go. Fair enough. More than fair, Amanda agreed and felt something loosen in her chest. She had a position. She had a purpose. She would not be sleeping in the streets after all. Then let us get the supplies loaded and head home, Nathan said. It is a rough ride, but we should make it before full dark. The ranch house was smaller than Amanda had expected. A weathered wood structure with a sagging porch and shutters that needed painting. But the land around it was beautiful in its stark way. Rolling hills covered in tough grasses and scattered with juniper trees, mountains rising purple in the distance. The barn was larger than the house, which told her everything about Nathan's priorities. He helped her down from the wagon with careful courtesy, and the girls tumbled out behind her with renewed energy. Inside, the house was exactly what she had expected, functional but neglected, everything clean enough but nothing comfortable. The furniture was rough-hewn and sparse. Dishes were stacked haphazardly. Clothes lay in piles waiting to be mended. It was the home of a man drowning in responsibilities with no idea how to manage domestic life. The girls sleep upstairs in the loft, Nathan explained, setting her carpetbag down near a door. This was supposed to be a sewing room, but it has a bed. It is small, but it is private. I sleep out in the barn most nights anyway, in case of trouble with the cattle or horses." Amanda opened the door to find a narrow room with a single bed, a small dresser, and a window that looked out toward the mountains. It was perhaps a third the size of her room back in Philadelphia, but it was clean and it was hers. "This will do perfectly," she said. That first evening was chaos. The girls were unused to anyone telling them when to wash or how much to eat, or that they needed to sit still for more than 30 seconds. But Amanda had been trained in one of Philadelphia's strictest households, and she knew how to maintain calm authority even when she felt anything but calm. She heated water for washing, inspected the pantry, and made a simple supper of beans and cornbread, and gently but firmly insisted that all 3 girls wash their faces and hands before eating. Nathan watched from the doorway with an expression that was part amazement, part relief. When the girls were finally settled at the table, actually using spoons instead of their fingers, he caught Amanda's eye and mouthed, "Thank you." After supper, Amanda tackled the girls' hair, working patiently through tangles while telling them stories about Philadelphia. The gas lamps, the cobblestone streets, the grand buildings and parks. The girls listened with rapt attention, even Lily, who fidgeted in her lap while Amanda worked oil through her knotted curls. "Did you have a mama in Philadelphia?" Emma asked suddenly. "I did," Amanda said softly. "She died when I was 16. My father raised me after that until he passed 2 years ago." "So you are an orphan like us," Grace said matter-of-factly. "Not quite like you. You have a wonderful father who loves you very much. But yes, I understand what it is to lose a mother. That is part of why I wanted to help you." "Will you be our new mama?" Lily asked, her voice small and hopeful. Amanda's hand stilled in the child's hair. She glanced up to find Nathan standing frozen in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "I will be your caretaker and teacher and friend," she said carefully. "I will do all the things a mama would do, but your real mama will always be your mama, even though she is in heaven. I am not here to replace her. I am here to take care of you because that is what she would want." Lily seemed to consider this, then nodded. "Okay, but you smell nicer than Papa." Nathan let out a surprised laugh and the tension broke. "I have been working with cattle all day," he protested. "Give a man a chance to wash up." Amanda smiled despite herself. "There is still hot water in the kettle if you want it." That first night, after the girls were finally asleep in the loft, Amanda sat at the rough kitchen table and made lists by lamplight. Things the girls needed. Repairs to their clothing, lessons she would start teaching them, supplies they were low on. She was so absorbed in her work that she did not hear Nathan come back inside until he cleared his throat. "You should not feel obligated to work after dark," he said quietly, moving to pour himself coffee from the pot she had kept warm on the stove. "You have done more than enough today." "I am simply planning," Amanda replied, setting down her pencil. "I find it helps me feel organized." Nathan sat down across from her, cradling the tin cup in both hands. In the lamplight, he looked younger and more vulnerable than he had in the harsh afternoon sun. "I need to be honest with you, Miss Oliver. I have no idea if I can afford to keep you. The ranch is barely turning a profit. I have been operating on hope and stubbornness for the last year." "What happened?" Amanda asked gently. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee. "My wife Catherine died 3 years ago when Lily was born. Complications. The doctor could not stop the bleeding. I had a foreman then, a good man named Charlie who had worked for my father. He helped me keep things running while I was half mad with grief and trying to care for 3 little girls. But Charlie's rheumatism got too bad last winter, and he had to move to town. Since then, it has been just me trying to manage 300 head of cattle, maintain the buildings, care for the horses, and raise 3 daughters. I am failing at most of it." "You are not failing," Amanda said firmly. "You are overwhelmed. There is a difference. Your daughters are healthy and clearly loved. Your ranch is still operating. You simply need help, and there is no shame in that." "I kept thinking I could do it all myself," Nathan admitted. "Kept thinking that is what a man should be able to do. But watching you tonight, seeing my girls actually sitting still and eating properly and getting their hair brushed without tears, I realized how much they have been missing, how much I have been failing to give them." "They have not been missing your love," Amanda said softly. "That is clear in everything they do. They have simply been missing the practical care that one person cannot provide while also running a ranch. Let me help you, Mr. Jameson. Let me give your daughters what they need while you do what you do best." Nathan met her eyes across the table, and she saw something shift in his expression. Gratitude, yes, but also something else. Something that made her pulse quicken in a way she had not felt since before her world fell apart in Philadelphia. "Nathan," he said quietly, "if you are going to live here and care for my children, you should call me Nathan, and I will call you Amanda if you allow it." "I allow it," she said, her voice coming out softer than she intended. They sat there in the lamplight, 2 people who had both lost everything they thought their lives would be, finding an unexpected moment of connection across a rough wooden table in a small ranch house in New Mexico. Amanda felt something warm unfurl in her chest, something that felt dangerously like hope. The next weeks fell into a rhythm that felt almost natural. Amanda rose before dawn to prepare breakfast while Nathan handled the first round of chores in the barn. The girls would stumble down from the loft, and Amanda would coax them into washing and dressing properly before they ate. After breakfast, she would spend the morning teaching them their letters and numbers, using whatever materials she could find. She made a primer from brown paper and charcoal. She taught them arithmetic with beans and buttons. She read to them from the 3 books in the house: a Bible, a farmer's almanac, and a battered copy of Robinson Crusoe. In the afternoons, she taught them practical skills: how to mend clothes with neat, small stitches, how to churn butter and bake bread, how to set a table properly and serve a meal. Emma proved to have a quick mind and a gift for numbers. Grace was artistic, drawing elaborate pictures on any scrap of paper Amanda could spare. Lily was still very young, but she learned her letters quickly and loved to help with cooking, standing on a stool to stir pots with fierce concentration. Nathan would come in for the noon meal, dusty and tired, and Amanda would watch his face light up when he saw his daughters engaged in their lessons. He started staying longer, asking Emma to show him her arithmetic or admiring Grace's drawings. He would lift Lily onto his shoulders and parade around the kitchen while she shrieked with delight, and Amanda would feel that dangerous warmth in her chest grow stronger. In the evenings, after the girls were in bed, Nathan and Amanda would sit together at the kitchen table. Sometimes they would talk about the ranch, about the challenges he was facing with drought and market prices. Sometimes she would tell him stories about her life in Philadelphia, about the grand houses where she had worked and the society ladies with their elaborate rituals. Sometimes they would sit in comfortable silence, Amanda mending clothes while Nathan oiled tack or sharpened tools. One night, about 3 weeks after she arrived, Nathan looked up from the bridal he was working on and said, "You have transformed this house. Not just made it cleaner, though God knows it needed that. You have made it feel like a home again. The girls are different, happier, more settled." Amanda felt heat rise in her cheeks. "They are wonderful children. They just needed consistency and attention." "They needed a mother," Nathan said quietly. I have been trying to be both parents and I am not built for it. I can teach them to ride and rope, how to recognize dangerous snakes and read weather patterns. But I cannot do their hair without it ending in tears, mine and theirs. I cannot teach them to be young ladies. I cannot give them the softness they need. And they need both, Amanda said, understanding. They need your strength and skills, and they need someone to teach them the things their mother would have taught them. We are giving them different things, but both are necessary. We make a good team, Nathan said, and his eyes held hers across the table with an intensity that made her breath catch. Yes, Amanda agreed softly. We do. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Amanda was afraid to name. Then Lily called out from the loft, having a bad dream, and the spell broke. Amanda rose to go comfort her, but Nathan's hand caught hers briefly as she passed. The touch lasted only a second, but it burned through her like lightning. September arrived with cooler nights and the first hints of autumn color in the cottonwoods along the creek. Amanda had been at the ranch for 5 weeks, and the trial month Nathan had mentioned seemed forgotten by both of them. The girls were thriving, their dresses mended and clean, their hair neatly braided, their lessons progressing well. Emma could now read simple sentences, and Grace could do addition and subtraction with numbers up to 20. Even Lily knew all her letters and could write her name in wobbly characters. The ranch still struggled financially, but Amanda had proven resourceful in stretching their supplies. She had planted a late vegetable garden that was producing squash and beans. She had learned to make soap from lard and lye. She had taken apart worn-out clothes and resewn them into garments that fit the growing girls. She had started keeping chickens for eggs, building a coop from scrap wood with Emma's enthusiastic if somewhat clumsy help. Nathan had stopped sleeping in the barn most nights, now that the household ran more smoothly, and the girls did not wake him at all hours with needs he did not know how to meet. But Amanda was acutely aware of him in the house, of his presence in the small bedroom off the kitchen, of the sounds of him moving around in the early morning or late evening. She was also acutely aware that her feelings had shifted from simple professional respect to something far more complicated. She found herself watching for him during the day, listening for the sound of his boots on the porch. She noticed the way his hair curled at his collar when it got too long, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled at his daughters, the easy strength in his hands when he lifted heavy things. She noticed, and she tried very hard not to let herself feel anything about what she was noticing. She had come here for work, not for romance. Nathan was her employer. He was a grieving widower still in love with his dead wife. She was a practical woman who had already learned that love was a luxury she could not afford. She repeated these things to herself like a catechism, trying to shore up defenses that felt increasingly flimsy. Then came the day that changed everything. Amanda was in the garden with the girls, harvesting squash in the warm afternoon sun. Nathan had ridden out early to check on cattle in the far pasture and was not expected back until evening. The girls were laughing, making a game of who could find the biggest squash, when Amanda heard hoofbeats approaching fast. She stood, shading her eyes, and felt her stomach drop when she saw Nathan riding hard toward the house, hunched low over his horse's neck in a way that spoke of urgency or pain. She gathered her skirts and ran to meet him as he pulled up near the barn and saw immediately that his left arm hung awkwardly at his side. "What happened?" she demanded, reaching up to help him dismount. "Horse spooked at a rattlesnake," Nathan gritted out, his face pale beneath its tan. "Got thrown into a rock pile. I think my shoulder is dislocated. Need you to help me." Amanda's medical training was limited, but she had helped the household doctor in Philadelphia often enough to know the basics. "Girls, go inside," she called firmly. Emma, fill the kettle and heat water. Grace, get the whiskey from the high cabinet. Lily, stay out of the way. She helped Nathan into the house and settled him in a chair, carefully removing his shirt to examine the injury. His shoulder was definitely out of place, the bone visible beneath the skin in a way it should not be. Nathan was breathing hard, sweat beading on his forehead. I need to set it, Amanda said quietly. It is going to hurt. I know, Nathan said through clenched teeth. Just do it quick. She had watched the doctor do this twice. She knew the theory. But knowing and doing were different things, especially when the patient was someone she cared about. Amanda took a deep breath, positioned herself carefully, and pulled. Nathan's shout of pain made all three girls cry out from wherever they were in the house, but Amanda felt the shoulder relocate with a solid thunk. Nathan sagged forward, gasping, and she supported him with both hands on his good shoulder. Done, she said, her voice shaking slightly. It is back in place. Now we need to immobilize it while it heals. She fashioned a sling from a torn sheet and helped him into it, then made him drink whiskey for the pain despite his protests. The girls hovered anxiously until Amanda shooed them away to do their evening chores, then she sat beside Nathan while he recovered from the shock. You have steady hands, Nathan said eventually, his voice rough. You did not hesitate. I was terrified I would do it wrong, Amanda admitted. But it needed doing, so I did it. That is you in a nutshell, is it not? Nathan said, turning his head to look at her. His eyes were slightly unfocused from the whiskey and pain, which perhaps explained what he said next. You see what needs doing and you do it without complaint or drama. You came to a strange place with nothing, took on 3 wild girls and a struggling ranch and a broken widower, and you have held everything together through sheer determination. You are the strongest woman I have ever known, Amanda Oliver. Amanda's throat felt tight. I am not strong. I am just practical. You are both, Nathan said. And you are beautiful and kind, and you make my daughters laugh. You make this house feel like a home. You make me feel like maybe I am not completely failing at everything. Nathan, Amanda whispered, not sure if she was warning him or pleading with him. I know, he said, closing his eyes. I know I should not say these things. You are my employee. I am your employer. It is not proper, but Amanda, I cannot stop thinking about you. I cannot stop noticing the way you sing while you work, or the way you are so gentle with Lily, or the way you sit here with me every evening like we are partners, instead of employer and employee. I cannot stop wanting things I have no right to want. Amanda's heart was hammering so hard she thought he must be able to hear it. What things? Nathan opened his eyes and met hers, and she saw everything in his gaze: desire, fear, hope, guilt. Everything, he said simply. I want everything with you. I want you to stay forever, not as an employee but as my wife. I want to fall asleep knowing you are in the next room and wake up to your face every morning. I want to build a life with you, a real partnership. I want more children if you would want that. I want to love you the way you deserve to be loved, but I have no right to ask for any of that. You came here for work, not to take on a ready-made family and a man who is barely solvent. I am being selfish even saying this. Amanda felt tears burning in her eyes. You are not being selfish. And you are not the only one who has been thinking things they should not think. Nathan, I came here expecting to be a governess and nothing more. I told myself I was not looking for love, that I just needed security and purpose. But these last weeks, being with you and the girls, I have felt something I thought I would never feel. I have felt like I belong somewhere, like I matter to someone. And when I see you with your daughters, when I watch you work yourself to exhaustion to provide for them, when we sit together in the evenings and talk about everything and nothing, I think maybe I have been lying to myself about what I want. "What do you want?" Nathan asked, his voice rough with emotion. "This," Amanda said, the word coming out choked. "I want this. I want your daughters to really be mine. I want to wake up every morning and know I am building something permanent, not just filling time until something better comes along. I want to be your partner in all things, not just your employee. I want to love you, Nathan, and be loved by you. I want everything too." Nathan reached out with his good hand and cupped her face, his palm rough and warm against her cheek. "Then stay. Not for a month or a season, but forever. Marry me, Amanda. Be my wife and the mother to my daughters and the partner I need. Help me build this ranch into something real. Have children with me if you want them. Grow old with me in this little house in the middle of nowhere. I cannot offer you Philadelphia society or fine things, but I can offer you my whole heart and a life full of purpose. Say yes." "Yes," Amanda whispered, leaning into his touch. "Yes, Nathan, to all of it." He pulled her toward him with his good arm, and they kissed there in the kitchen while the evening sun slanted through the windows, and the sounds of the girls playing drifted in from outside. It was not Amanda's first kiss, but it was the first one that felt like a promise of everything. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathless. "The girls are going to be insufferable when they find out," Nathan said, his forehead resting against hers. "They are going to be delighted," Amanda corrected, laughing through her tears. "Lily has been asking when I would become her real mama since the first week." "Smart child," Nathan murmured, and kissed her again. They told the girls at supper, and the response was exactly as chaotic and joyful as expected. Lily shrieked and threw herself at Amanda, nearly knocking over the table. Grace burst into happy tears. Emma, trying to be the dignified older sister, simply grinned so wide her face looked like it might split. "So you are going to be our real mama now?" Lily demanded, climbing into Amanda's lap. "Forever and ever," Amanda confirmed, wrapping her arms around the little girl. "If that is all right with you." "It is all right with us," Grace said fervently. "We love you. We have loved you since the first day." "And I love all of you," Amanda said, looking at each girl in turn and then up at Nathan, who was watching the scene with such tender happiness that it made her heart ache. "I love all of you so very much." They were married 3 weeks later in the small church in Hillsboro, with half the town attending out of curiosity and well-wishing. Amanda wore a dress she had made herself from fabric Nathan had splurged on, a soft blue cotton that matched her eyes. The girls wore matching dresses in pale yellow, their hair elaborately braided with wildflowers woven through. Nathan wore his best shirt and a coat that Emma had carefully brushed until it shone. The ceremony was simple but heartfelt. When the minister asked if Nathan would take Amanda as his wife, to love and cherish until death parted them, Nathan's voice rang out clear and certain. When Amanda gave her own vows, she looked into Nathan's eyes and saw her future. Hard work and tight finances, yes, but also laughter and love, and a partnership built on mutual respect and genuine affection. At the reception in the church hall, with donated food and hired musicians, Nathan danced with each of his daughters first before claiming Amanda for a waltz. She had not danced since before her father died, but her body remembered the steps, and Nathan proved surprisingly graceful. "Are you happy?" he asked quietly as they turned across the floor. "Happier than I have been in years," Amanda replied honestly. "Happier than I ever expected to be when I stepped off that stagecoach 2 months ago. I am going to spend the rest of my life making sure you stay happy," Nathan promised. "You took a chance on a broken man and his half-wild daughters. I will never take that for granted." "We were all a bit broken," Amanda said softly. "But maybe that means we fit together better. All our jagged edges lined up just right." Nathan pulled her closer, propriety be damned. I love you, Amanda Jameson. God, it feels good to call you that. My wife. I love you too, Amanda whispered. My husband. Life as Nathan's wife was everything Amanda had hoped and more challenging than she had anticipated. The ranch demanded constant work from both of them. Nathan's shoulder healed slowly, forcing Amanda to take on more outdoor tasks than she had expected. She learned to milk the cow, slop the pigs, gather eggs from temperamental hens. She learned to watch the sky for weather and the landscape for predators. She learned that ranching was not romantic, but rather an endless series of small crises and back-breaking tasks. But she also learned the deep satisfaction of building something together. When she and Nathan worked side by side mending fences or hauling hay, when they sat up late going over the account books and finding ways to stretch their limited funds, when they made decisions together about the girls' schooling or the ranch's future, Amanda felt a sense of partnership she had never experienced in Philadelphia's rigid social hierarchies. The girls flourished under the security of having two parents who loved them and each other. Emma's confidence grew with her education, and she started talking about maybe becoming a teacher herself someday. Grace's artistic talents bloomed, and she filled every available surface with drawings of horses and mountains and wildflowers. Lily followed Amanda everywhere like a shadow, soaking up everything from cooking techniques to sewing stitches to the stories Amanda made up during their evening routine. Nights were precious and private. Nathan was a passionate but considerate lover, always mindful of Amanda's comfort and pleasure. They would lie tangled together afterward in the darkness of their small bedroom, talking in whispers about their days and their dreams. Nathan told her about Catherine, about their youthful marriage and her difficult pregnancies, about the guilt he still carried for not being able to save her. Amanda told him about Philadelphia, about the humiliation of her changed circumstances and the fiancé who had abandoned her, about learning that the people she thought cared for her only cared for her father's money. I am glad he was a fool, Nathan would say, kissing her temple. Because his loss was my gain. I am glad Catherine would approve of us, Amanda would reply, because Nathan had told her once, early in their marriage, that he believed his first wife would be happy knowing her daughters were loved and cared for. Winter came hard and fast that year, with snow piling high around the ranch house and temperatures dropping so low that water froze in the bucket overnight. Nathan worked brutal hours keeping the cattle alive, breaking ice on water sources and hauling hay to snowbound pastures. Amanda kept the household running, keeping fires burning and hot food ready, teaching the girls their lessons in the warm kitchen while wind howled outside. It was during that long winter that Amanda realized she was pregnant. The signs were unmistakable: morning nausea, tender breasts, a curious exhaustion that no amount of rest could cure. She was both thrilled and terrified. She had helped raise her younger cousins back in Philadelphia, had cared for Nathan's daughters, but this would be her own child, a baby born from the love she and Nathan shared. She told him one evening in late January, after the girls were asleep. Nathan had just come in from a brutal day fighting a winter storm, his face raw from wind and cold. Amanda made him sit by the fire with hot coffee while she rubbed feeling back into his frozen hands. "Nathan, I have something to tell you," she began, her heart pounding. He looked at her with immediate concern. "Are you all right? You have been pale lately." "I am fine," Amanda assured him. "Better than fine. I am pregnant. We are going to have a baby." Nathan went absolutely still, his eyes going wide. Then a smile broke across his face like sunrise, transforming his tired, weathered features. "A baby, truly, truly. Amanda confirmed, laughing at his expression. "Probably due in August if my calculations are right." Nathan pulled her into his lap, careful despite his enthusiasm, and held her like she was made of glass. "A baby," he repeated wonderingly. "Our baby. Amanda, I never thought I would have this again. I never thought I would have the joy of expecting a child with a woman I love who is not terrified of dying in childbirth." Amanda understood. Catherine had been scared through all 3 of her pregnancies, with good reason as it turned out. "I am healthy and strong," she said firmly. "We will find a good midwife. I will be fine, and so will the baby." "You have to promise me," Nathan said, his voice suddenly fierce. "Promise me you will tell me immediately if anything feels wrong. Promise me you will not take chances or push yourself too hard. I cannot lose you, Amanda." "I cannot." "You will not lose me," Amanda said, cupping his face in her hands and forcing him to meet her eyes. "I promise I will be careful. I promise I will ask for help when I need it. But you have to promise me you will not treat me like I am fragile. I am going to keep teaching the girls and running the household. I am going to keep living my life. I will not spend 9 months wrapped in cotton wool." Nathan's mouth quirked. "You are the stubbornest woman in New Mexico." "Yes," Amanda agreed, "and you love me for it." "I do," Nathan said, and kissed her with a tenderness that made her eyes sting with tears. The pregnancy progressed smoothly through the winter and into spring. As Amanda's belly swelled, the girls became increasingly excited about the prospect of a baby brother or sister. They helped Amanda sew tiny clothes and argued constantly about names. Nathan was attentive to the point of being ridiculous, treating Amanda like she might shatter at any moment, despite her exasperation. The ranch showed signs of improvement as well. The cattle had survived the winter better than expected, and prices were up. Nathan hired a part-time hand, a young Mexican man named Miguel who proved capable and hardworking. With the extra help, Nathan was not running himself into the ground, and there was more money for necessities, and even a few small luxuries. Amanda found herself settling into a contentment she had never imagined possible. She was a rancher's wife in rural New Mexico, her hands calloused from work and her dresses practical rather than fashionable, living a life completely foreign to everything she had known in Philadelphia, and she had never been happier. In early August, when the heat pressed down like a blanket and Amanda felt approximately the size of a barn, the pain started. Nathan sent Miguel for the midwife, a competent woman named Mrs. Garcia who had delivered half the babies in the county. Emma took charge of her younger sisters, keeping them occupied and calm while Amanda labored. Nathan refused to leave, ignoring Mrs. Garcia's protests that birthing rooms were no place for men. He held Amanda's hand through each contraction, wiped her face with cool cloths, whispered encouragement when she was convinced she could not take another minute. And when their son finally arrived, red-faced and squalling, Nathan wept openly. "A boy," he said wonderingly, holding the tiny baby with the practiced ease of someone who had done this before. "We have a son, Amanda." "We have a son," Amanda echoed, exhausted and elated. "What should we name him?" They had debated names for months without reaching a conclusion. But looking at the baby's face, Amanda suddenly knew. "Robert," she said, "after my father, Robert James Jameson." "Robert," Nathan repeated, testing the name. "Robbie, yes, that is perfect." The girls were allowed in to meet their baby brother, and their reactions ranged from Emma's mature pride to Lily's slightly disappointed complaint that he was kind of small and wrinkly. But within days, all 3 were completely smitten, fighting over who got to hold him or help change him or sing to him when he cried. Amanda recovered quickly from the birth, her body proving as resilient as she had promised. Within 2 weeks, she was back to her regular routine, though Nathan continued to fuss and insist she not overdo things. Little Robbie proved to be an easy baby, nursing well and sleeping in long stretches, which everyone agreed was a blessing given how busy the ranch kept them all. That fall was perhaps the happiest time of Amanda's life. She would work in the kitchen with Robbie sleeping in a basket nearby, teaching the girls their lessons while she cooked or mended. Nathan would come in for the noon meal and sweep her into his arms, kissing her thoroughly while the girls pretended to be scandalized. In the evenings, they would all gather together, Nathan and the older girls handling the livestock while Amanda and Lily prepared supper. And then they would eat together as a family, talking and laughing and making plans for the future. The ranch continued to improve. Nathan made wise investments in better breeding stock. Miguel proved so valuable that Nathan offered him a permanent position with better pay. They repaired the barn and the house, adding a proper addition that gave the older girls their own bedroom and created more space for everyone. Amanda started a larger garden and learned to preserve food for winter. They were not wealthy, but they were secure, and more importantly, they were happy. 2 years later, Amanda gave birth to a daughter they named Sarah Catherine, after Nathan's mother and his first wife. The girls were old enough now to be real help with the baby, and the household ran with practiced efficiency. Emma was nearly 12 and already talking about possibly going to teacher's college in a few years. Grace was 10 and showing serious artistic talent, filling sketchbooks with increasingly sophisticated drawings. Lily was 7 and had appointed herself Robbie's primary guardian, making sure he stayed out of trouble with the dedication of a military general. Nathan and Amanda's partnership had only deepened over the years. They thought in sync now, finishing each other's sentences and understanding each other's moods with barely a word exchanged. They still sat together in the evenings after the children were in bed, but now they held hands across the table, comfortable in the silence or talking about everything under the sun. They still made love with passion and tenderness, their connection stronger for having weathered challenges together. One evening in the spring of 1883, 5 years after Amanda had stepped off that stagecoach in Hillsboro with $5 and desperate hope, Nathan found her sitting on the porch watching the sunset. The mountains were purple against the gold and orange sky, and the air smelled of sage and coming rain. He sat beside her and pulled her close against his side. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, pressing a kiss to her hair. "How strange life is," Amanda said softly. "How all the things I thought I wanted when I was young in Philadelphia, the society and the fine clothes and the respectable marriage, none of that mattered in the end. I lost everything I thought defined me, and it turned out to be the best thing that could have happened. Because it brought me here, to you, to our children, to this life. Do you ever miss it? The city, the culture, the things I cannot give you." Amanda turned to look at him, this man she had built a life with, whose face she knew as well as her own, whose heart beat in rhythm with hers. "Never," she said firmly. "Not for a moment. This is where I belong, Nathan. With you, with our family, building something real and lasting. I was lost before I came here. You and the girls, you gave me a home and a purpose and a love I did not know existed. You gave me everything that matters." Nathan's eyes were suspiciously bright. "You saved us, you know. My girls and me, we were drowning and you threw us a lifeline. You taught me that I could love again, that there was room in my heart for someone new without dishonoring Catherine's memory. You made my daughters into confident, educated young women. You gave me 2 more beautiful children. You turned a struggling ranch into a real home. How do I ever thank you for that?" "You do not need to thank me," Amanda said, reaching up to touch his face. "This is not one person saving another. This is two people choosing each other every single day. This is building a partnership and a family together. This is love, Nathan. Real, messy, imperfect, absolutely perfect love. "I love you, Amanda Jameson," Nathan said, as he had said hundreds of times over the years, and as she never tired of hearing. "I love you too," Amanda replied, leaning into his kiss as the sun set over the New Mexico landscape that had become her home. Inside the house, she could hear the children playing, Emma reading to Lily while Grace sang a silly song to baby Sarah, and Robbie banged on a pot with a wooden spoon. It was chaos and noise and exactly what Amanda had needed without knowing it. She had come west looking for work and found a family. She had come expecting to be a governess and became a wife, a mother, a partner in every sense. She had arrived with nothing and built everything. And as Nathan pulled her to her feet to go inside to their children and their life together, Amanda knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The years continued to be good to the Jameson family. The ranch prospered as Nathan's careful management and Amanda's practical efficiency combined to create a successful operation. They expanded gradually, buying adjacent land when it became available, improving their herd quality, and developing a reputation for fair dealing that brought them steady customers. Emma did indeed go to teachers' college, the first in their family to pursue higher education. Amanda and Nathan were both bursting with pride the day they sent her off, though Amanda cried into Nathan's shoulder that night, mourning her oldest daughter's childhood even as she celebrated her future. Emma returned after 2 years with a teaching certificate and took a position in Hillsboro's school, boarding in town during the week and coming home on weekends. She was a natural teacher, patient and creative, and the children of Hillsboro thrived under her instruction. Grace's artistic talents earned her a scholarship to an art school in Santa Fe when she was 17. She spent 3 years studying there, and her paintings began to sell to wealthy tourists seeking authentic Western art. She eventually opened a studio in Hillsboro, painting commissioned works and teaching art lessons to supplement her income. She never married, declaring herself perfectly happy with her art and her independence, and Amanda admired her daughter's determination to forge her own path. Lily grew into a spirited young woman who shocked everyone by declaring her intention to help run the ranch rather than pursue more traditionally feminine occupations. Nathan taught her everything he knew about ranching, and she proved to have an almost supernatural gift with horses. By the time she was 20, she was training horses for neighboring ranches and had earned a reputation as the best horsewoman in the county. She eventually married Miguel, who had become like family over the years, and they built a house on the eastern section of the ranch, managing that portion of the operation as equal partners with Nathan and Amanda. Robbie grew up strong and curious, equally comfortable in the barn or bent over a book. He loved the ranch but also inherited his mother's love of learning. He attended university in Albuquerque, studying animal husbandry and modern ranching techniques, then returned home to help modernize the operation. His education and Nathan's experience combined to keep the ranch competitive as the West changed and modernized. Sarah, the baby, proved to be a natural healer. She helped nurse the family through illnesses, developed a gift for understanding what ailed both people and animals, and eventually studied with the doctor in Hillsboro. Though formal medical education for women was difficult to obtain, she learned everything the doctor could teach her and became an invaluable resource to the community, particularly for women who preferred a female attendant during childbirth and illness. Amanda and Nathan watched their children grow and thrive with deep satisfaction. They had given these 5 young people roots and wings, security and independence, love and skills. Each child had found their own path, but all remained connected to the ranch and the family, creating a network of support and affection that spanned the county. On their 20th wedding anniversary in 1898, their children threw them a surprise party. Emma organized it with her usual efficiency. Grace created a beautiful painted banner that hung across the barn. Lily prepared the horses for a mock rodeo that had everyone laughing. Robbie and Miguel set up tables and chairs. And Sarah coordinated a feast that included dishes from Amanda's Philadelphia childhood and Nathan's Texas roots. Half the county attended, testament to the respect and affection the Jamesons had earned over 2 decades. Nathan pulled Amanda onto the makeshift dance floor they had created in the barn, and they waltzed to music played by a local band while their children and grandchildren and friends clapped along. Amanda was 52 now, her hair streaked with silver and her hands marked by decades of hard work. Nathan was 60, his face deeply lined and his dark hair gone mostly gray. But when they looked at each other, they saw the same people who had made promises in that little church 20 years ago. "You remember the day we met?" Nathan asked as they turned across the floor. "You kneeling in the street with Lily, looking so competent and kind, and me thinking that maybe God had not completely abandoned us after all. I remember thinking you looked exhausted and desperate, and that your daughters needed me," Amanda replied. "I never imagined I would come to need them just as much, need all of you. Best decision I ever made, asking you to come work for me," Nathan said. "Best decision I ever made was saying yes," Amanda countered. "And then saying yes again when you asked me to marry you." "What do you think about the next 20 years?" Nathan asked. "Think we can manage it?" Amanda laughed. "I think we can manage anything as long as we are together. We have built something remarkable, Nathan. Not just this ranch, but this family. Look at our children. Look at what they are accomplishing. We did that. Together." "Together," Nathan agreed, pulling her closer. "Always together." They danced until the stars came out, surrounded by the family and community they had built, in the barn on the ranch that had been both their salvation and their legacy. And when Amanda finally rested her head on Nathan's shoulder, tired but deeply content, she thought about how far she had traveled from that desperate day in August 1878. She had stepped off a stagecoach with nothing but $5 and fading hope. She had taken a position caring for 3 motherless girls and a grieving widower. She had found her purpose, her family, her home, and her great love. She had helped raise 5 remarkable children and built a ranch that would support the family for generations. She had loved and been loved with a depth and constancy that still sometimes took her breath away. The Wild West had not been tame or easy or comfortable. But it had been real, and it had been hers, and Amanda Oliver Jameson would not have traded a single moment of it for all the Philadelphia drawing rooms in the world. She had found exactly what she needed, though she had not known she was searching for it. A place to belong, a purpose to fulfill, and a love to last a lifetime. As the party wound down and their children began helping clean up, Nathan took Amanda's hand and led her outside into the cool evening air. They stood together on the porch of the house they had rebuilt and expanded over the years, looking out at the land they had worked and the mountains standing eternal in the distance. "I love you, Amanda," Nathan said softly. "Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for staying. Thank you for building this life with me." "I love you too," Amanda replied, leaning against him with the ease of 2 decades of partnership. "Thank you for seeing me when I needed to be seen. Thank you for giving me a family when I thought I had lost mine. Thank you for every single day." They stood there in comfortable silence as the night deepened around them. 2 people who had found each other when they both needed saving, who had built something beautiful from desperation and hope and love. Inside the house, their children's laughter drifted out through the open windows. In the barn, the horses settled for the night. Across the ranch, cattle grazed peacefully. And Amanda and Nathan held each other close, grateful for every choice and chance that had brought them to this moment, to this life, to each other. The story that had begun with a desperate woman and a widowed cowboy with 3 motherless daughters had become something neither could have predicted. A great love, a thriving family, and a legacy that would endure for generations. And as they finally went inside to their home, their children, their life together, Amanda knew with absolute certainty that she had found everything she never knew she was looking for, in the last place she ever expected to find it.